Okay, let's just dive right in. When one definition of woman basically affirms one person's reality but negates another's,
Hmm.
who gets to decide? Who holds that power?
It's a fundamental question. And you see immediately how deep it runs.
Yeah, imagine your deepest sense of self just constantly out there, debated publicly. What does that even do to a person?
Well, it taps into that core human need for recognition, doesn't it? And when that's fundamentally challenged, the reaction is often visceral, deeply emotional. It's about your very being.
I've listened, I've heard the fears from women about their spaces, feeling like something's eroding. And I've also heard the sheer terror from trans women about safety, about just existing.
Two very real sets of fears.
Right. And I told myself, I get both sides. But did I? Really? Or is that just intellectual sidestepping, avoiding the actual painful clash?
It's a tough self-assessment to make.
And then there's feminism itself. It started out in many ways trying to push beyond just biology for defining woman. But now, well, now for some, biology is suddenly front and center again. Is that moving forward, or are we looping back?
That friction, it happens in movements as they evolve, doesn't it? The original ideas, even if they were radical then, they don't always neatly fit with new understandings, new lived realities, so you get these internal debates. Boundaries get pushed.
And this isn't theoretical, is it? It's about who feels safe going into a public bathroom. It's about sports records. It's about whose pleas for protection get heard first or loudest.
Exactly. Tangible, everyday consequences.
So what if making a space safe for one person genuinely makes it feel unsafe or even erases the visibility of another? Is perfect safety even possible without someone, somewhere, being excluded?
That forces us to really unpack what safety means. Is it purely physical, or does it include, psychological safety, emotional well-being? And can we achieve that for everyone without getting into the tangled web of identity and who belongs where?
I remember talking to a mother. Her voice was so tight you could feel the anxiety. She asked me, is it wrong? Am I a bad person for being scared for my daughter in, like, a public changing room? It wasn't hate. It was just fear.
A palpable fear rooted in a traditional view of sex and safety.
So is her fear valid? Or is it
Yeah.
just an inconvenient feeling getting in the way of progress? And can a right, any right, be absolute if exercising it genuinely makes someone else feel like their reality is crumbling? Who gets to rank the suffering?
And you have to set that against the very real vulnerabilities and, frankly, dangers faced by trans people. It's a collision of deeply personal fears.
We hear it all the time. Trans women are women. We all stop. Simple. Declared.
Right. End of story.
But for a lot of people, that full stop is exactly where the really hard questions start flooding in. Is just nodding along, unquestioning acceptance, is that real allyship? Or is it, maybe, a convenient way to avoid the messy, difficult conversations that need to happen?
History shows us movements always have these internal struggles, doesn't it? The suffragettes arguing about race, about class.
Exactly. It feels like one of those moments again. But this time, identity itself, the very definition, is the battleground.
And those historical struggles remind us that progress isn't clean. It often involves these painful internal reckonings about who the we really is in the fight for liberation.
Okay, let's pause here. For you listening,
Hmm.
have you ever just dismissed someone's fear because it messed with your neat picture of justice? Be honest, just with yourself.
It's a challenging question.
Think about believe all women. Powerful slogan, right? Came from a vital place.
Yeah.
But does it extend to women who say they feel unsafe around biological males in female-only spaces, even if those individuals identify as women? Is there an unspoken asterisk there?
Applying that principle, born from tackling the disbelief of assault survivors into the realm of gender identity, it gets complicated fast. You're balancing the need to support survivors with ensuring trans people are safe and included. It forces you to look at your own assumptions.
Imagine this. You have the power. You make the law about identity, but whatever you decide, it's going to cause real pain to one group or another. Do you aim for progressives even if it excludes some? Or do you play it cautious and get slammed as a bigot?
There's no clean win in that scenario.
None. And online. It's just war, isn't it? Total battlefield. But offline, I think a lot of people are just confused, trying to keep up with the language, feeling kind of lost, maybe even scared.
Yeah, the online polarization often hides that quieter, more personal struggle people are having, the pressure to just pick a side. It stifles real talk.
So what is a woman? Seriously, is it a feeling inside? Is it X chromosomes? Is it a social role we're trying to either escape or maybe reclaim?
Or could it be
Yeah,
all of those somehow intertwined?
maybe. But if it is that complex, how on earth do you write laws about it? How do you base social policies on something so fluid and personal?
That's the fundamental challenge. Law likes clear boxes, identity often spilled out of them.
I find myself believing in radical inclusion, like truly wanting everyone to belong. But then I hear that mother's voice, worrying about her daughter's chances, her spaces, and that feels real too. Are those two beliefs just fundamentally at odds? Can they coexist in one person?
It highlights the tension between abstract principles and lived experiences, doesn't it?
I had a trans activist tell me once, voice shaking, they're not just disagreeing, they're debating my right to exist. This is life and death for us.
A powerful statement reflecting deep fear and marginalization.
And then a feminist scholar countered, they're not just adding people, they're fundamentally redefining sex itself. We fought for decades for protections based on that reality, and now it feels like they could be undermined.
Also rooted in a history of struggle and a fear of losing hard-won ground.
So who's wrong? Who gets to be right here?
Maybe the really uncomfortable truth is that both perspectives can be valid, both rooted in genuine pain, genuine fear.
And admitting that, that's the really hard part, isn't it? It feels like a betrayal, somehow.
Acknowledging the legitimacy on both sides feels insufficient, perhaps, but maybe it's the necessary start.
It's so easy to signal virtue online, right? Post trans rights or human rights, get the likes, done. Allyship badge,
It's
unlocked.
formative allyship, yeah. It often sidesteps the actual friction points.
But getting into the weeds, where different rights seem to genuinely bump up against each other, that's where the real work is. So again, asking you, listening, have you ever muted someone, unfriended them, just because of the questions they were asking about this felt dangerous? Maybe not to anyone else, but dangerous to your own certainty.
It's easy to retreat into echo chambers online, isn't it? Where challenges are silenced, not engaged with. The algorithm kind of encourages it.
Think about this. One group fought like hell to escape biological determinism, right? To say biology isn't destiny.
A cornerstone of feminist thought for a long time.
And now, some in that same group feel like they're being forced back into biology by new definitions, new demands around gender identity. Isn't that ironic? A cruel twist.
History does have a way of leaping back, sometimes in unexpected ways. Groups seeking freedom from one set of categories can sometimes inadvertently create new ones.
So flip the script. If your fundamental sense of self, your understanding of your own sex, your safety, if that felt truly threatened by a new, powerful social movement, how would you react, honestly? Would it be open arms? Or would there be resistance, fear?
It's a difficult thought experiment, but a necessary one for empathy.
We want simple stories, good guys, bad guys, heroes, villains. But this whole thing lives in this murky, uncomfortable gray zone. It demands that you actually wrestle with it, not just pick a team.
That ambiguity is hard for us to tolerate culturally.
Remember the fights over gay rights? How it was framed as this existential threat to family values? A lot of those arguments sound, well, pretty ridiculous now, don't they?
To many people, yes. The Overton window shifts.
So will today's heated battles over trans rights and women's rights sound just as dated in, say, 30 years? Or is there something fundamentally different this time?
Historical parallels help, but each conflict has its unique features. The intersection here of sex, gender identity, biology. It adds layers that previous rights movements maybe didn't grapple with in quite the same way.
What if? What if this isn't really trans rights versus women's rights? What if it's actually more like an internal fight within feminism? Different ideas about what liberation even looks like now.
That reframing is really interesting. It suggests it's more of a family argument, exploring evolving definitions within a broader movement, less of a binary conflict.
And if it is a family argument, maybe fiercely defending your side just makes you blind to the humanity, the real fears on the other side. What if that certainty that I am unequivocally right feeling, what if that's the real problem, the biggest block to understanding?
The conviction of absolute rightness rarely leads to productive dialogue, does it? Especially in complex human issues.
So look again, right now. Do you still see it as just us versus them? Clean lines?
Probably not if you've been really listening.
Because this fight for rights, it's not some orderly debate. It's a mosh pit. Needs, fears, everyone desperately trying to be seen, not trampled. And everyone in that pit feels like they're the one getting crushed.
A powerful image, the raw human cry to be seen and validated.
Which brings us back. Who gets to define woman? But maybe the deeper question is the act of trying to draw that single definitive line the problem itself?
Philosophers have grappled with our need to categorize for centuries. But applying rigid definitions to something as personal and fluid as identity, it inherently creates boundaries and often exclusions. Maybe the focus needs to shift from defining to understanding, respecting the spectrum.
If this conversation made you uneasy, made you
Yeah.
think, good, share it, not to score points, but to maybe spark a real conversation, even if it's awkward.
Those uncomfortable conversations are often the most necessary ones.
And ask yourself this, is fighting so hard for rights really about pure justice? Or is it maybe, just maybe, also about needing a stable identity, a fixed point, in a world that feels increasingly uncertain and fluid?
A deep psychological question there. Our sense of self is often tied to these categories.
Is it more dangerous to ask hard questions about new identity frameworks? Or is it more dangerous to just accept everything asserted without thinking through the potential impact on others?
A genuine dilemma. Where does critical thinking end and prejudice begin, and vice versa?
Society's like software, right? We're trying to install this major update about identity, but what if the old hardware, or biology or deep-seated fears, isn't quite compatible yet? Do you force the update and risk crashing the system? Or do you acknowledge the glitches, the conflicts, and try for a more careful integration?
That tech analogy really captures the tension, doesn't it? Integrating new understandings with existing structures and, yes, fears. There's always a potential cost to rapid change.
Imagine that choice, laid bare. Validate a trans person's identity completely. Or protect what you see as essential sex-based rights for women. Choose. Someone feels the pain either way. There's no need escape.
It highlights the tragic element, potentially. Sometimes choices involve unavoidable harm or loss.
Okay, mental inventory time. What arguments about this have you just swatted away, dismissed without really thinking? Now, why? Was it because they were factually wrong? Or because they just felt threatening, like they poked at something you hold dear?
That level of intellectual honesty is demanding.
And in trying so hard to be inclusive, have you maybe stopped asking the really tough, probing questions? Is that solidarity? Or is it kind of an intellectual surrender?
A fine line to walk.
I heard from a parent once, whispering almost, if my kid tells me they're trans, do I lose the child I knew? Is it like a death? Or is it a birth? Do I just live in this limbo forever? That fear of erasure, it cuts both ways. It's not just one group's feeling.
Absolutely. The experience of change and potential loss is felt across different perspectives in this. True understanding means holding space for that multiplicity of feeling.
What's the acceptable body count for progress? Collateral damage. Who decides what's acceptable? The ones driving the change? Yeah. Or the ones feeling run over by it?
A profoundly ethical question. How do we weigh competing goods, competing harms?
You might be sure you're on the right side of history. We all like to think that. But history, well, it gets rewritten, doesn't it? And it rarely captures the full story, the valid fears of those who saw things differently at the time.
The narrative of history is often smoothed out, losing the jagged edges of contemporary conflict and the legitimacy of minority viewpoints at the time.
Here's a thought trap. You don't actually need bad intentions to cause harm here. All you need is rock-solid certainty. Certainty that you're right, and a complete refusal to really hear the pain or perspective of the quote-unquote other side.
Certainty can be a profound barrier to empathy and understanding.
Where did your definition of woman come from anyway? Who handed it to you? School, your family, social media, philosophy, your gut? Is it really untouchable? Beyond questioning? Beyond evolving?
We absorb these definitions from everywhere, often unconsciously. Critically examining their roots is crucial, and being open to their evolution.
I'll admit, I used to think this was simpler, clearer lines. Then I started really listening. Not just waiting to argue, but listening. And the simplicity just dissolved. What I saw instead were human beings, afraid of being unseen, afraid of being erased, on all sides.
That shift from abstract debate to recognizing shared human vulnerability is key.
Sartre said, we are our choices. What choices are we making right now, collectively, individually, in how we navigate this? What kind of world are these choices building?
Every stance taken, every conversation had or avoided shapes that future reality. The stakes are incredibly high.
There's probably a fear around all this that you don't even voice to yourself, that little knot in your stomach.
Yeah.
What is it? Why does it feel so dangerous to even name it in your own head?
Unspoken fears often hold the most power over us.
Think about it. Have you ever felt your identity questioned, your safety threatened, your voice silenced? That feeling, that's the common ground, that shared vulnerability. Why is it so damn hard to see it in each other across this divide?
Recognizing that shared vulnerability could be the bridge, perhaps, if we allow it to be.
Maybe there isn't a perfect referee, an ultimate authority on rights that can make everyone happy here. Maybe there are just people with deep, real, sometimes clashing needs, all crying out to be seen. Maybe chasing the perfect, neat solution is the problem.
The pursuit of unattainable universal agreement can sometimes prevent us from finding workable, compassionate ways to simply coexist despite differences.
And maybe nobody's the pure villain here. Nobody's the perfect hero. Maybe we're all just flawed people caught in a really difficult, unfolding human drama, still figuring it out.
Moving beyond simplistic hero-villain narratives is essential for navigating complexity. It allows for nuance and potentially for grace.
So if your idea of women's rights has no room for trans women, what does woman actually mean to you then? And flip side, if your idea of trans rights means dismissing the real fears some women have, what does inclusion actually mean?
These questions force us to define our terms and confront the potential contradictions in our own positions.
Getting real about this means looking at your own stuff, your biases, your fears, your prejudices, even the ones you don't like admitting you have, the ones that clash with your image of yourself as fair and good.
That self-awareness, that willingness to confront our own shadow, as Jung might say, is fundamental to authentic engagement.
What if science tomorrow proved definitively gender identity is 100% social construct or 100% biological? Would it even end the argument? Or would we just fight about belonging and rights on different grounds?
I suspect the latter. These debates are often proxies for deeper anxieties about social change, belonging, and identity itself. Scientific facts get interpreted through those lenses.
Your silence. Choosing not to engage because it's uncomfortable or messy. That's not neutrality. It's a vote. It's a vote for things staying as they are, a vote for comfort over the hard work. It's choosing stagnation.
Silence in the face of difficult conversations often benefits the existing power structures or the loudest voices. Genuine engagement requires courage.
Decades from now, what will people say about this time? About the role you played? The ones who dug trenches, the ones who stayed silent, the ones who tried, however imperfectly, to build bridges.
It's a sobering thought. How will our current struggles be understood with the benefit of hindsight?
Maybe really fighting for rights means accepting they aren't static. They evolve. Definitions shift. And that process, it's going to be messy, painful, human. Always.
Embracing that dynamism, that inherent messiness of social evolution, might be part of the path forward. Rights are living things, not stone tablets.
I feel it constantly, that pull. Choose a side. Make it simple. But every time I lean, I hear a voice, a story, a fear from the other side that just pulls me back to the difficult, messy center. Maybe staying in that tension, that struggle. Maybe that's the work right now.
Resisting easy answers and staying with the complexity is incredibly challenging, but perhaps the most responsible stance.
We're all in this, navigating this minefield. Identity, language, fear. No one has the map. But maybe in that shared confusion, we can find a way forward that honors everyone's humanity, that doesn't demand someone be erased.
A path of inclusion built on mutual recognition, even amidst disagreement.
Remember that first question. Who defines woman? Maybe the real question now is, can we live together, respect each other's humanity, even without one single answer? Can we transcend the need for these rigid boxes?
A profound challenge to our ingrained ways of thinking.
Because honestly, the most dangerous place in any fight isn't the other side's camp. It's the illusion of your own perfect moral clarity. That's the hill progress dies on.
Humility might be the most crucial virtue here.
If you need to sit with this, listen again. Please do. The questions don't get easier, but maybe your thinking gets deeper. That's the point.
Deeper thinking over easy answers.
And if this did stir something, share it. Find someone willing to have the uncomfortable conversation with you. We need less certainty right now and more courage to ask the hard questions.
Courage over comfort.
This has been The Deep Dive. We don't have the answers. We just explore the questions.